Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Today we have Matt Merker and Jordan Kauflin with us, and we're so excited to pick their brains about some hymns and some songs that we've been singing of theirs. Thank you both for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you guys. So 30,000-foot view, just a general question. Why is it important for us and our congregations to be singing corporately?
God has made us to be a singing people. We're made in God's image. We see in Zephaniah 3 that the Lord sings over the people that he has redeemed. So we understand it's part of how he's designed us to be those that express forth his praise in song. And the New Testament commands it. Colossians 3, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs together. So singing is how we exalt God, and it's how we edify one another.
Yeah, and I think the fact that the Bible references singing over 400 times, it's helpful to remember that singing is not some man-made construct. We decided, let's all get together and sing various notes, melodies. No, the Bible, God, his revealed word, gives us this command to sing, and it's actually it's a blessing to us. It's a grace to us.
And it's the only world religion that has congregational singing as a regular feature of our life together. Christianity is unique in that. Yeah.
Interesting. So what led you to begin writing songs specifically for the church to be singing together?
That's a great question. So my dad is a songwriter, and so I grew up kind of watching him write songs. He was a part of a band called Glad back in the day, and so he kind of became a pastor and began writing songs for the church. And so I saw that and saw the blessing of being able to sing songs that he had written, and so that kind of just sparked something in me. So I probably started when I was 12 or 13 and just wrote terrible songs, but yeah.
But they were sincere.
Encouraging to me.
That's right. No, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Expressing your own love to God in a song.
That's exactly right.
What a wonderful thing to do.
That's exactly right. And then I was able to kind of utilize him and other people in helping me kind of develop that craft. But being in it, I grew up in the church, kind of a local church context, and so that was a very accessible, thing for me.
Sure.
For me, it really just came through being part of a local church that values hymns that have wonderful, rich truths. So I've led singing in many different churches since I was age 13 or so. But when I came to my current church in 2009, there's a richness to the singing and to the songs that are selected that just enliven my soul and actually help sustain me through some difficult times in my life. And so that's where I started turning to old hymns that many churches today no longer sing, and try to give them new melodies, because that was a way of just me trying to hold on to God in times of suffering and trial, a devotional practice of providing new tunes to old texts so that I could get those texts into my heart. It was really just for me. And then as I shared some of those tunes with my pastor, he said, well, why don't we start singing this as a congregation?
Sure.
Because hopefully these words and the melodies that I've put to them can then be some sort of blessing to others, if God chooses to use it that way.
Awesome. So why would you two say it is important for us to have songs that speak to the larger spectrum of the Christian life rather than just the feel-good sentiments?
Because that's what the Psalms do. That's God's inspired hymn book, and the Psalms are honest about pain and suffering and persecution. So I think we have a great model there, and that's what Christians throughout history have done, so it seems wise.
Yeah, and I think singing uniquely, both from a biological perspective, but then just our own experience. Singing is an emotional experience, and I think that's one of the reasons God created it, right? It allows us to sing words and in such a way that it shapes them and reforms them in our minds and our thoughts and even in our bodies. So to narrow that to we only sing with this emotional bandwidth, I think limits us, and I think limits the impact that the intention that God gave us music and singing for, and I couldn't agree more. Like it's all over the Bible. There are songs of lament, there are songs of darkness, there are songs of pleading, just as much as there are songs of rejoicing and the effect that the Lord has on us.
There's a great little article by Carl Trueman, who I believe teaches at your institution, so you are already probably familiar with it. But if you look online, What Can Miserable Christians Sing? Is a great brief piece that he wrote that explains how Christians throughout the ages have used song as a way to carry our lament to God. to call out to him when we don't see answers, when we don't know why he is allowing, even ordaining our trials and suffering in this fallen world. Singing can be an appropriate response to trial as well as to the great joys that we have that Christ is risen and coming again.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Truman, for that article. I was just speaking with Matt Boswell, and he shared that Christ, the sure and steady anchor, was inspired directly by that article.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
That's great.
Yeah.
awesome. So you spoke about the Psalms being sung throughout Christian history, and we live in a time when, in the past few decades, we've seen a shift from a steady canon in the form of a hymnal being sung out of to, Matt Boswell just put it, the back cover being blown off. We have such more, with PowerPoint and everything and slides, we have words in front of us and then suddenly they're away. How do we sustain and enrich ourselves and just dwell on these texts, these truths, when we live in such a consumeristic society that it's so quick to have these put out of our mind?
Yeah, I think, so one suggestion and one thing that's blessed me is actually reading hymns as devotional. Is because we're experiencing the blessing of Christians over the years who have studied and thought long and hard about how to craft poetry. And so I found that very beneficial to the point of I want these words to be with me and not just be an experience on Sunday.
Sure.
But then the second thing for me, and as I have 5 kids, and so as I think through what does it look like for our home to be one that's filled with music and that they know these songs, and then our church as well, like Sunday's not enough, and so I think that there's a blessing in kind of the explosion of Spotify and playlists and all these different things.
Right.
Because I have several different playlists. Worship in the mornings, kind of my own private one. I just have a general kind of songs that we generally sing in the church, and we'll just play that in our home. As I think through our congregational, I call it our digital hymnal, where we have a playlist of kind of all the songs we sing on Spotify, and so any person can benefit from that. And I think that is the blessing of recordings and albums and songs that are, we're able to listen to really at any moment.
Yeah.
It's just this idea that curation takes work, and it takes thought, and it takes wisdom. So in the past generations, teams of pastors and theologians would curate a hymnal. They would look at all the thousands of options, and they would shrink it down to what they thought would bless that next generation in the church. We can still do that curation today. Pastors can do it, professors can do it, song leaders can do it. But we have to recognize that built inside of these streaming technologies is this sort of principle of if you listen to one thing, it's then going to suggest the next thing. And not that those algorithms are necessarily bad, but as theologians and singers, we want to have our own algorithm that dictates how we curate those, whether it be a playlist, whether it be the songs we're singing on Sunday. At my church, we still print out the music. We print the words and we even print the notes, so that way we can send people home with a printed bulletin.
Awesome.
A lot of folks use that in their family devotions. They'll cut it out and make their own little songbook. So you can still do DIY, sort of mini hymnal style curation if you want.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, thank you guys both for this enriching conversation and the songs that you put out. We really appreciate it at Grove City and in our home congregations. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.